Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Facebook Live from Alzheimer's Orange County. My name is Melissa Klabe. I'm the Director of Education here at Alzheimer's Orange County, and I'm joined by Kim Bailey, one of our Programs and Education Specialists. Hi, Kim.
Hi, good morning, Melissa. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to be talking about some tips with assisting with personal care, which we all know can be very challenging at some points when we're assisting a loved one with cognitive changes. So we're going to talk about hopefully some practical tips that can be useful for everyone. And as always, we encourage you to jump in, chime in with the comments, any comments or questions. We'd love for this to be interactive. I'm going to thank our sponsor in a minute here, but I do want to say our hearts go out to anyone that's being affected right now by the two big fires in Orange County, of course. Please reach out to us if there's anything we can do for you. We're here to support you, and our hearts are with anyone that's evacuated or in danger right now. And we hope you stay safe. All right, so I want to thank our sponsor for this month, Crown Cove. Crown Cove is located in Corona del Mar here in California. They're a retirement community. They offer assisted living and memory care. They have a very intimate senior campus, very beautiful location. They offer a safe, positive environment with the best in memory care services, and they're trained to bring joy and a sense of family to each and every moment by staying focused on what individuals can do and not what they can't do. And that's my favorite part of their whole spiel there, focusing on abilities, which is what we're going to do today and what we try to do with all of our education. So if you're interested in learning more about them, please visit their website. It is in the comments. And again, we are so thankful for their sponsorship, without which we wouldn't be able to bring you educational programs like this one. All right, so let's dive in here. We're talking about personal care. Today, we're going to focus on grooming and dressing. But if other people want to talk about other forms of personal care, feel free to put it in the comments. We can talk about those as well. We talked about bathing a while ago. I know that's always a really hot topic, so we can definitely address some of that as well. But I wanted to start out and kind of frame our discussion today talking about something that is really important to Kim and I. We talk about this a lot, and that is the concept of knowing what matters to our loved ones with cognitive change. And this can be really difficult, especially as someone progresses through dementia, to know what they would want when it comes to assisting them with personal care. And so essentially this is kind of talking about, if you're able to have those conversations early, we'd really encourage you to do that. And we know sometimes it's easier said than done. I had a lot less of these conversations with my mom, who I care for with Alzheimer's, than I would have liked. But if you're able to, it's kind of early in the memory loss progression, we would encourage you to find out the type of care that your loved one would want, and it can be kind of difficult to frame these conversations, but something like, if you were to need help with care in the future, what kind of help would you want? If you needed someone to bathe you, would you want that to be me? Would you want me to, hire a professional to do that? What would you want to be able to do for as long as possible? Kind of what are those most important things to you? Or what are you more okay with having help with? And just kind of, questions like that can get a conversation going. And again, not everyone's able to have these conversations, totally understandable, but it is helpful to know as much information as possible. Makes the road ahead a little bit easier. It's still very challenging, of course. And of course, knowing those personal details just about the person's routines and, what they like to do, what they don't like, the times of day they typically do things like take a shower or brush their teeth. All these little details can be really helpful. Kim, is there anything you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, I think these are difficult conversations to have, as you've already stated, Melissa. And I think we all sort of operate from this standpoint of independence. And of course, all of us would like to remain independent for as long as possible. So, as you were talking, I was just thinking about the series that we have at ALS OC called Living Well with Early Memory Loss. And we do talk about things like these difficult conversations and having them early on, because we need to build a framework for what care is going to look like as the illness progresses. And if you don't open that window early on, then it's guesswork later on down the road. And, you miss that opportunity to really know, what your loved one would like to have. And so I'm thinking about my grandmother as she advanced into dementia. And, I made assumptions about personal care. And I know I had a lot of difficulty with giving her showers, for example. You mentioned bathing, and I know today is not about bathing, but you mentioned it. And so I was struck by a memory of how difficult it was to shower her. And then when she did inevitably end up going into skilled nursing care, how easy it was for her to be bathed by strangers. There was the resistance stopped, and I thought, how is that she isn't awkward with strangers, but she was so awkward with me.
Yeah.
And it struck me, and I was kind of early on in my career as a gerontologist then, and it struck me that there's that issue of shame with the person that's closest to you. And then years later, when I cared for a friend, and I've talked about her a lot in these sessions, there wasn't the awkwardness. And I think it was because I wasn't a family member. So there's a lot of variables, so again, just circling back to your original point, having the discussions about what the care looks like and who's going to provide that care, those are essential conversations.
Absolutely. Yeah. As often and early as we can, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something I love talking about, which is, we talk a lot about the decline that happens and abilities that are lost, which are very real and important. But I love talking about things that remain. And I think as part of our discussion today, it's so important as well, because focusing on these things, I think, can help us understand why personal care can be difficult, and ways that we can make it easier because of these things that remain. And I love this slide also because this is a picture of my parents, actually. So my mom there, and this was several years ago, but she's in late stage of Alzheimer's disease, and there's my dad doing a wonderful job, as he always does, of just connecting with her and smiling, and you can tell she's very content here. And she was very nonverbal at this point, as she is now. But all of these things still definitely ring true for her. I know that having a sense of dignity and self-esteem, especially, that's one that pops out to me, because I think as we're helping someone with personal care, we can often think, oh, they're kind of being difficult right now with me. But I think if we think about it in terms of them still having this sense of needing dignity, and that shame that you talked about as the kind of flip side of that, are they being difficult, or are they just experiencing receiving care in a new way they've never had to do before, with someone kind of trying their best, right? But oftentimes not necessarily maybe going about it in all the right ways, and kind of trying to rush through a task. And dignity isn't always the top concern when we're trying to kind of get a task done, and we think we're doing the person a favor by kind of rushing through it. But I think oftentimes some of these things can get, unfortunately, kind of rushed past by, that sense of dignity, and making sure they're covered up and they're warm and they're comfortable and all of these things. They are capable of feeling that empathy, and oftentimes that empathy becomes even more important than the words that we exchange. So they can definitely pick up on your sense of urgency or anxiety, and that can definitely be mirrored back to you then, especially in terms of personal care. So just remembering these things, they're still capable of feeling that shame and embarrassment, and also wanting that dignity that we all want as people, being taken care of. So just remembering that. And I know, we love our loved ones. We're always trying to do the best for them. But again, it's easy to forget, these things when we're in the heat of just trying to get a task done. It's not always top of mind, right?
Right, absolutely. And none of this is to say that, if, let me just say, if any of this resonates with you, don't beat yourself up.
No.
Being a caregiver, as we all know, is a very difficult, challenging role. And, your plate is full, and of course, you're trying to rush through tasks. But the reward at the end of the day of slowing down as we go through, especially personal care, the rewards are great. And so if this is you and you're rushing, I just want to make a statement about how, if you can pace yourself, things are going to go more smoothly. As our friend Dr. Galinda always says, there's going to be more joy than not. So yeah,
Absolutely.
The rewards are great. And so just try it, and I think you'll see some really wonderful outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. So before we dive into some specifics about grooming and dressing, this, connection is vital to care. This whole kind of the approach and thinking about connecting and communicating, this is so important for any aspect of personal care, right? It sets the tone for the whole interaction. When we start out rushing and anxious, that kind of just, sets a tone of this is going to be a little bit difficult and we're just going to try to, kind of muscle our way through this. And that's not always going to leave a great taste in a person's mouth and leave them eager the next time you kind of try to coax them into the bathroom to do some, grooming or oral care or whatever it is. So approaching slowly from the front and calling them by their preferred name, maintaining eye contact, trying not to get them into a position where they feel like you're kind of towering over them or they're kind of backed into a corner, paying attention to your tone, smiling with your voice, as Ben likes to say, our colleague Ben, and taking your time, which again, all these things easier said than done because we think we just want to kind of get through this task and get on to the next thing. But that can often just kind of backfire and make us spend much, much more time than we would have on this task, right? Eliminating distractions, which we'll talk about a little bit more. There can be a lot going on, like in the bathroom, for instance, with noises and, all kinds of things that can be really distracting. So, just with personal care, it's so easy to get into like hot water, right? So just making sure that we are as calm as possible throughout the entire, interaction, that will help both of us make it not, a situation where we get into a battle. We don't want a battle. People say choose your battles, but if we can avoid the battle, we'd rather do that entirely.
Altogether, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So Kim, do you want to talk about how we can kind of give some good cues and
sure. And I would add to that slide before to try to set things up in advance as much as possible. No matter what the task, for example, and we'll probably go into this, in slides to come, but if it's dressing, then, try to have things laid out. If it's bathing, absolutely, have the bathroom all set up, just set yourself up for success. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, you want to remember that people are losing their language skills. And so any kind of nonverbal prompts or cues, gestures, all of that, play a role in your success. So visual cues and gestures, actually demonstrating, showing items. It's a little bit like show and tell. Mm-hmm. And then and then you want to give instructions just one step at a time. And remember that as you give instructions, you're going to speak slowly and simply, and you're going to give them time to take in and process what you're saying before going on to the next step. And again, you're speaking and you're also giving cues, you're giving, visual cues and gestures as you give each of these instructions. Repeat as needed and provide reassurance and, just step by step, you're going to get the job done. Take your time.
Yeah, I like the way Teepa Snow frames it. Sometimes she says, show and tell and then touch. So touch should kind of be the last thing that you do so that you're kind of, preparing this person, here's a brush, and we're going to brush your teeth now, and then kind of going in for that. Or we're going to, I'm going to put toothpaste on it, the step by step. But just giving someone that little bit of advance warning rather than just kind of diving in.
Oops, you're frozen, Melissa.
Oh, I am?
Now you're unfrozen, so it's okay.
Good.
I like what you're just saying about, holding something up, talking about what they're going to do with it, and then maybe do a little hand on hand or hand over hand.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the hand over hand. Absolutely.
Great. I like it.
All right. So do you want to go into grooming a little bit and kind of the challenges we face and then some ways we can get around those challenges?
Sure. So this is something that is hurtful to caregivers. I hear about this a lot on the helpline, and when I'm working with families is that, they'll say, oh, my husband or my wife used to take such pride in their appearance and now they don't care. It's not that they don't care. It's just that they're losing pieces, and we've talked about this a lot, but in this illness, people lose their initiative. I call it their starter button.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't want to take good care of their grooming. It's just that they're kind of forgetting how to get started. And so, this is common, and it's not purposeful. So just remember that they're not doing this on purpose to annoy you. And so here's some great tips on grooming. Use safer, simpler grooming tools. Make sure you use their favorite products and scents. That has some appeal.
Yeah.
Perform tasks alongside the person. So that way you're kind of in it together. Let's get ourselves cleaned up for the
Right.
day. You can use a mirror so that the person can kind of see what you're doing if you are, in fact, sort of brushing their hair or assisting in the grooming process. Talk through the steps while you're assisting the person and give lots of compliments. And let me just add sort of a general statement, just broadly speaking about all activities of daily living, or ADLs as we call them. You want to make sure that you are not doing too much, because the longer you can help a person to do for themselves and to remain independent, the higher their functioning level is going to remain for the longer period of time. So there's a tendency, we all sort of fall into this trap of wanting to just do it for them. Because it's faster and easier for us. Again, this is kind of getting it back to the rushing part, because
Yeah.
you're busy. But as far as keeping their functioning level high, it's going to stay higher longer if you encourage them to do as much for themselves as possible. And we want to do that because of the way that makes them feel. And back to that shame and dignity, all those issues. So, we're going to use those cues, and we're going to use those prompts and all of those mechanisms to help people to remain independent in their personal care for as long as possible, because it makes them feel more in control, makes them feel better, and then we feel better too. So just remember, it's kind of a vicious cycle. If you start doing too much, then they're going to lose those skills. So that's just kind of a little caveat to keep
Yeah.
in mind.
Absolutely. I think another important thing here that I didn't have a bullet for, but I want to mention is pain, and making sure that something, that you're doing to them to help them that you're not used to doing isn't causing them discomfort. For instance, shaving a male's face. Putting a warm washcloth on and kind of soaking that can help a lot, kind of, loosen up that area so that it's less painful for shaving. Of course, someone with longer hair, you want to make sure you're using conditioner before you kind of go and brush their hair. So any resistance you might see, might not be, I don't want your help, but it might be more of a factor of that this is causing me discomfort, but I don't know how to tell you that. So instead I'm pushing you away, or I'm yelling at you, or I'm kind of trying to leave the room. And so really digging into kind of what's going on,
Yeah.
that's all really important things also to think about. There's a lot going on with personal care.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up pain, because some people with dementia have an altered pain threshold too.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful about things like the temperature of the bath and all of those things. So no, that's
Absolutely.
a
Or
really
even
good
just, if you're in the bathroom doing personal care and it's cold in there, right?
one.
And
Right.
they're just not wanting to be in a place where they're cold, but they are unable to tell you that. So making sure it's nice and warm in there when you're doing your personal care, that can just be an easy thing to kind of check off. That makes things a lot easier for both of you.
Right, Melissa. And even, if they're cold and you're hot, too bad. You can take off layers.
Yeah.
You can take off layers. I
Exactly.
remember being in the bathroom, with my friend, and I was wearing shorts and tank top, and she,
Yeah.
was still cold, but our discomfort is not a problem. Their
We
comfort
can
is
manage it. Yeah.
everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned hands-on assistance earlier, and there's a few ways to do this. We can kind of put our hand over their hand, right, and kind of help walk them through something. But this is a picture. Again, I got this from Tifa Snow. She has kind of trademarked something called hand underhand, and it's a little hard to see in this picture, I know, but basically you kind of go in for a handshake with somebody, and then you kind of slip your hand like this. And so actually you're doing the fine motor skill. So let's say I had a toothbrush and I'm brushing their teeth, but their hand is right under mine. And so there's still that connection from the hand to the brain. And it's kind of like you're almost tricking their brain that they're doing the action while you're doing kind of the intimate, intricate details of that work. They still have this kind of motion of their hand doing the work. And it actually, if you try it out with someone, it's a lot easier to let someone feed you or brush your teeth like that when you still have your hand almost kind of controlling their hand a little bit, like you could push away if you wanted to, rather than just this random hand coming in to feed you or brush your teeth. It's really unsettling if you've ever had someone, do that to you. Having your hand there actually makes a really big difference. So I would encourage you to try that with, a friend or a family member, anyone, just to see how that difference feels with your hand there versus just someone's hand coming in. It can make things a lot more comfortable. And you can look up Teepa Snow's hand underhand for some really good videos if you're interested in that. But I think for feeding and brushing teeth, it's a really nice technique to use.
Can you do that again? I love that because
Yeah.
I think they probably think they're more in control that way too, which is lovely.
Absolutely. So I grabbed a little Sharpie here. I'll use this as my toothbrush.
Okay.
So let's say I'm going in, we kind of go in for a handshake, and then you kind of slip your hand like this. Imagine that I actually have, my hand like this. And then you'd have their toothbrush. And so this would be my hand brushing their teeth, but their hand is right here underneath. It has a little bit of control over my hand, right? So they're not having to do the brushing of the teeth, but they're able to kind of, if they were to experience some pain or something, they have a little control there. And you can feel kind of their resistance and know, okay, that's kind of an area, that's maybe of concern, or, they're not comfortable right now. And so and again, it tricks their brain as well into thinking that they are doing this action that they've done, their whole life. And so it kind of still has that, all those
Yeah,
nerve systems preserved there. So yeah, it's a really, really nice technique.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit into dressing. You want to talk about this slide here?
Sure. Yeah, so dressing, you really don't realize, like when you open the closet door and say to someone, "What do you want to wear today?"
Yeah,
It's how
it's
terrifying.
overwhelming for me.
That's just terrifying, because there's literally this universe of options in there. And so, people do need to, we always emphasize that we need to give people choices,
Yeah.
definitely, but let's narrow that field a little bit and, maybe, hold up a couple options and say, would you like to wear the green dress or the red dress? Just make it a little easier for people to be independent and
Right.
recognize that they are going to have difficulty choosing proper apparel. And honestly, I've seen people struggle in this area. They've tried to put shirts on as pants,
Yeah.
because they see the long sleeve and misinterpret that as a pant leg. It's just, dressing is bewildering, so they're going to need extra time and they're going to have that difficulty, and they're going to have problems with layering and sequencing. And sometimes it's just easier to keep wearing the same thing over and over again. They
Yeah.
may develop an obsession around the same garment. And so
Yes.
our goal, like I said before, is to allow the person to dress independently for as long as possible. So again, using all of those prompts and cues that we talked about and narrowing the options is going to help you to be successful. Laying out a few pieces on the bed and handing them to the person, tapping them on the shoulder or on the arm, or, helping, assisting, giving them a cue as to what goes where, is going to really be helpful. And I don't know if we have a slide about types of clothing or not.
Um, do you
Yes,
mean,
kind of. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So simple, comfortable is
Yeah.
best. Really, if they're home a lot, sweats are fabulous, because they can be warm and cozy. You can have a t-shirt underneath the sweat top. They can take that off for
Yeah.
comfort. Elastic waists,
Mhm.
pants that are easy to pull up and down, I mean, practical, loose, easy clothing is really great. Slip-on shoes, all of those things. You should definitely simplify the closet. And if there's a bunch of stuff in there that they're no longer wearing, trust me, it's best to get rid of all that stuff now.
Yeah.
And really simplify
Totally agree.
things. Yep, yep. And like I said before, laying clothes out in order, that sequencing that was on the last slide, and handing them things one by one to make it easier for them is great with those step-by-step directions. I already mentioned the slip-on shoes. Smiling as they get dressed, telling them how fantastic they look. All of that can be very helpful. I wanted to also say a word about sometimes we have clients who want to take their clothes off.
Yes, good point.
A lot. And, first you want to look, it's just like that's, what I don't like to call it a behavior. You know how we are about
stress. Yeah.
behavior, but it's an expression.
Right.
They're trying to tell you something. So we want to rule out it's too hot in the house before you just think
That's honestly the most common culprit. Either too hot outside, too hot in the house. We think, oh, they're being inappropriate. They're taking off this clothing. But really, if you were hot, what would you do?
So do your detective work. But if you rule out, those types of environmental reasons and everything, there are lines of clothing that you can buy that we can, on the helpline, we can tell you about that, that make it a little difficult for them to get out of these outfits. So that's called restrictive clothing. They're not, that's for extreme cases. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case people have problems with that.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. And on the flip side, if you're having trouble with somebody changing their clothes, not wanting to take them off, again, same thing as in the bathroom. Is it cold? Are they not wanting to take off, an article of clothing and change because I'm cold? I don't want to take this off, right? So if you're, make it, try and see if you can make it warmer, if you can go into a more comfortable place, if you can maybe drape them in such a way where it preserves a little bit of their modesty, thinking about all these things of reasons why you might not want to, take off a piece of clothing to change. You had mentioned earlier obsession with clothing. My mom went through a phase where she loved this sweater that someone gave her as a gift with a dog on it. She wanted to wear it every day. So we went out and bought another one so we could, wash one while she was wearing one. And, it drove us crazy sometimes, but, she was happy in it. And, looking back, I would have bought her 5 of those and just, had her be happy wearing that. And it was only for a period of, maybe a month or 2, and then she was over it. So, nothing lasts forever. We go through interesting phases sometimes, but just know that, whatever it is temporary and it will change.
Right.
You mentioned as well simplifying the closet. It's a little different for us here in Orange County because we don't have extreme seasons. But if you do live somewhere where, your heavy winter clothes and stuff and you don't need those in the summertime, just putting those out of sight, out of mind, I think would be really helpful. And just having kind of clothes for the season in that closet and simplifying that as well would be really helpful.
Right. But if they have like suits, and wardrobes from past occupations and things like that, I'm just saying that as a person who cleaned out someone's house last year and had all the things from years past, simplify. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, one of the best things you can do for your sanity is definitely simplifying. Absolutely. I really liked this. I've seen this in a couple different places, different versions of this, but having just pictures on the dresser, or even some people did it in their kitchen with, cups and glasses and things like that. And could be helpful for some people. For some people, it might not, really make much of a difference. I think it's kind of worth a try. If you, again, want to maintain that independence for as long as possible with that person, just kind of showing them, pictures and as well as written words of what's in here, what's in the closet, so that they can, kind of see what's in there. Also a note on this, adult diapers can sometimes be, a difficult thing. to, I don't want to say convince someone to wear, but, they say, oh, I don't need that, and we switched to just calling them underwear, and we put them in her underwear drawer, and we said, these are your underwear. And, that was really helpful. We just we didn't call them diapers. We didn't, and, that was, kind of made it a little bit easier to transition to if that's, something that you're needing to do or having yourself, finding a challenge with that. That's one way you can make it a little bit easier.
Great.
But I do like the pictures. Yeah.
I like that too, because you can just say, why don't you grab your socks, or, grab your shirt. I love it. I love that.
Yeah. Worth a shot. Let us know how it goes if you try it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have today. It's a little bit shorter of a class, but we're glad. Thank you if you joined us today, or if you're watching this later. Hopefully you found some good tips in there. Again, we'd always love to hear from you, challenges, or if anything worked well. Please let us know. And please join us for upcoming classes. We have lots of series, and they're all starting on the same day in November.
Wow.
So we have a 4 weeks to bet. Yeah, I know. We have the Living Well with Early Memory class, which you talked about, Kim, in November. If we still have that going on. We have Savvy Caregiver, our 3-week class for care partners. It's a little more of an intensive series, really, really helpful just to meet other care partners in your similar situation and talk about a lot of things that we talk about on these Facebook Lives, but in a little bit more in depth of a atmosphere, which is really nice. We have a class called 4 Weeks to Better Memory, which is open to anyone that would like to improve their memory and learn some cool tips and ways to improve your brain health. That's a 4-week series, 2 hours a week. It starts on November 4th. It's free. We would encourage you to go sign up if you're interested. And then we, of course, have many brain health classes as well. We have one coming up November 10th on nutrition for a healthier mind. So we would love it if you would join us for those, and check out our website for all of our listings of classes. These are just a few coming up. We also have our walk coming up. Kim, do you want to talk about our walk for a second?
Sure. Normally we're at Anaheim Stadium, but this year, due to the pandemic, we are going virtual. It's going to be every bit as much fun because you can choose where you walk and when you walk. It's on November 14th. What is the date? 14th. Thank you.
Sure.
I think I need 4 weeks to a better memory. November 14th, and it's not too late to sign up or to form a team. And we encourage everyone to join the fun. We'll have a virtual live streaming opening ceremony. We've got a spirit day coming up the Saturday before the walk. We'll have a drive-through at our corporate headquarters. We have a doggy dugout. We have a poster contest. You can come and get a shirt the week before. You can raise money for all the great programs and services. You can join one of the existing teams. I have a team, our gang.
Yes,
Melissa
you
has
do.
Yes, we do. We're in second place.
You're killing it.
So it's just great fun, and it's a wonderful way to support the efforts of ALS OC. So we hope that you'll go online and sign up today at alsoc.org/walk-run.
Yes, please do. We value your support immensely. And lastly, I just want to mention one of our community partners, Family Caregiver Resource. They offer lots of services for family caregivers out there. They have information, assessments, care planning, counseling, education, training, support groups, respite, all of these things. If you think you could, you'd be interested or you might benefit from their services, please do reach out to them. They're a great community partner of ours, and we just want to make sure that you know they exist. Caregiveroc.org if you need their services. Of course, all of our resources for you. Call our helpline. We are here for you. We would love to hear from you, whether you just need someone to talk to or you need a referral or some information. Please give us a call. If you happen to leave a voicemail, you will get a call back. And yes, thank you again, Crown Cove, for sponsoring this series this month. We are so appreciative. And thank you, Kim.
Oh, thank you, Melissa, for having me. Always a pleasure. And good luck to everyone out there. Thank you for the wonderful job that you're doing on your caregiving journey.
Absolutely. Reach out to us if you need anything, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.